He's not afraid of Donald Trump. But it seems the BBC are. All that coming up after the break.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is Alex Armstrong Tonight's Late Edition.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight.
Of course, breaking tonight, Tim Davie, the Director General of the BBC, as well as new CEO Deborah Turnus, have both resigned following a litany of scandals, including that misleading edit of Donald Trump's speech, framing him as inciting violence. Well, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy spoke earlier today.
I just wonder, have you watched it, and did you think it was misleading?
Well, I have watched it. What I haven't seen is the full version of the interview versus the clips that the Panorama programme showed.
I mean, I just cannot believe the Culture Secretary hasn't seen the biggest story of the week. Make it make sense. Well, the White House have bit back. They said this. They've got a big expose. Of course, we'll bring that to you in just a moment. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said, though, Davie and Turnus are going to be the start of wholesale change. The government need to appoint somebody with a record of coming in and turning companies around and their cultures. And Tory leader Kemi Badenoch said Tim Davie and Deborah Turnus had finally taken responsibility, but that a catalogue of serious failures at the BBC runs far deeper. And bringing you that White House report, it has thrown its support behind GB News. Press Secretary Caroline Levitt has said BBC News is dying because they are anti-Trump, fake news. Everyone should watch GB News. Wow, what a start to the show tonight. And joining me to go through all the massive stories in our newspapers tonight, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and comedian and GB News contributor Paul Cox. But first, before we get stuck in, let's get your news with Bethany Elsey.
Good evening, I'm Bethany Elsey in the GB Newsroom. Tim Davie has resigned as Director General at the BBC following concerns over impartiality. Davie admitted mistakes had been made and that he took ultimate responsibility. Deborah Turness has also resigned as Chief Executive of BBC News. It comes after accusations from the White House of fake news after a speech by the US President made on the day of the Capitol Hill riot in 2021 was edited in an episode of Panorama. But the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy says there have been a series of very serious allegations and systemic bias in reporting at the broadcaster. BBC Chair Samir Shah is expected to give evidence at a Parliamentary Select Committee hearing tomorrow. The King has led national commemorations for those who've lost their lives in the 2 world wars and subsequent conflicts. The royal family, senior politicians and thousands of service personnel and veterans observed a 2-minute silence at the cenotaph in central London. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was among those who joined King Charles in laying wreaths at the monument. Some 10,000 Armed Forces veterans took part in the Royal British Legion's march through Whitehall, including 20 who served in the Second World War. Services were also held across the UK, including the Band of the Royal Regiment of Scotland leading a march through Edinburgh, as well as the band and bugles of the Rifles leading processions in Belfast. Super Typhoon Fenghuang has made landfall in the Philippines, already killing 2 people and forcing more than 1 million to evacuate. It's the second typhoon to strike the region this week, bringing winds of up to 140 miles an hour. Typhoon Kalmegi hit the Philippines and Vietnam on Tuesday, killing over 200 people, and more than 100 are still missing. And dramatic scenes at one of the world's most active volcanoes in Hawaii. These are live pictures from the United States Geological Survey showing huge amounts of molten lava exploding out of the Kilauea volcano. It's been erupting periodically since December. And the UK military personnel and equipment is being sent to Belgium after suspected Russian drone incursions on its airspace. Flights were disrupted at Brussels and Liège airports on Thursday after unidentified drone sightings, which were also reported at military bases and nuclear facilities. RAF specialists will be deployed alongside Belgian and German teams. The Kremlin denies involvement. You're up to date. Have a very good evening.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back to the late edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, let's go through your front pages, shall we? The Independent, they are leading with this. A child like Jade goes missing every 2.5 minutes. A very important story. We do want to talk about that. The Metro, Tears of the Crown, of course, talking about the Remembrance Sunday events today. Very emotional. King on the front page of that. The iPaper, BBC bosses quit over botched Trump film as enemies gather. The Telegraph, Davie quits BBC over bias scandal. The Sun, Beeb boss quits over Trump lies. The Mail, BBC bosses quit in disgrace. The Guardian, BBC Director General Tim Davie steps down over Panorama row. Daily Mirror, Trump row BBC boss, I quit. The Times. BBC boss Davey resigns over allegations. You can see you can see the correlation here, can't you? Allegations of bias. The Express. Boss quits over BBC doctoring of Trump speech. Well, to talk about this initially, we've got GB News presenter and superstar Ben Leo live for us in Washington, D.C. Ben, I mean, listen, this is a massive story because the President of the United States has indeed posted on Truth Social about this, what would be normally a very British matter. This is explosive, isn't it?
Yep, explosive indeed. Yeah, it's it's been an extraordinary week, actually. So from the time that the Telegraph first printed their story about the Panorama situation and the fact that the BBC had spliced that January the 6th speech. And by the way, there's been some rhetoric in recent days about the fact that, oh, everybody splices videos apart. The fact of this matter is the BBC spliced two separate pieces of speech together that were almost an hour apart, 52 minutes apart, to make him say something that was the complete opposite of what he did say. So it wasn't just kind of like trying to tighten up a package to make it more easier to digest for viewers. It was a complete fake news hit job, as the White House said on Friday. So tonight, Alex, on The Late Show Live, myself, Beverly Turner, will be here for 2 hours to tell viewers exclusively how this whole week has gone down. From the very moment the Telegraph delivered that exclusive story about the Panorama situation, all the way through the week. Tuesday, when the White House slammed the BBC for their Gaza coverage. Wednesday, had another crack at the BBC for their trans coverage. Friday, the White House then delivered that, I'm calling it a nuclear missile towards the BBC, calling them a left-wing propaganda outlet, and Caroline Levitt, saying, the White House press secretary, saying that every time her and President Trump come to the UK and they're forced to watch the BBC, it ruins their day and makes them miserable. And then 48 hours from that, today, which you could call D-Day, I guess, the resignations of Tim Davie and Deborah Turness. And by the way, Deborah Turness, the CEO of BBC News, her resignation is going a bit understated, I think. It's all about Tim Davie, it seems, today, but the resignation of Deborah Turness is massive indeed. It's a very big deal. So they've both fallen on their sword. The one lingering question for me, Alex, now is, we all know President Trump holds a grudge and doesn't forgive easily. Will he sue the BBC now? Will he be interested in suing the BBC, as he's done with the likes of ABC and CBS News here in America? Bev and I will detail what happened this week, including did or did not the BBC reporters here in Washington get a little bit of a dressing down from the White House staff on Friday? Reports suggest they were dragged in to get a telly off from the press team at the White House. So we're going to be getting stuck into that and also have a look at what's going how the BBC proceeds from here, how the White House proceeds from here, and exclusively, Bev Turner has an exclusive comment from Caroline Levitt, the press secretary. We've got a statement to share with GB News viewers and listeners that you won't find anywhere else. So stick around for the next 50 minutes or so. The Late Show Live is with you live from midnight UK time.
Thank you so much, Ben. I really can't wait to hear your analysis on this story because it has Trump written all over it, Ben. And it just seems to me that Donald Trump has called up the Prime Minister, he's called up the BBC, gone, heads are going to roll because this relationship is so critical, isn't it? Well, look, Ben, we'll look forward to having you and hearing your voice about this very shortly. I have my fantastic panel here with me tonight, Bill Rammell, Linda Jubilee and Paul Cox. Welcome to the show, Paul. I mean, listen, you haven't had your say on this yet, so I'd like to hear your opinion on that. You've heard what Ben had to say there about, of course, this now is an international sort of scandal at this point, isn't it? Doctoring the videos of a speech of the President of the United States. I think that's quite serious. If someone had done that to our Prime Minister, I think we'd take that very personally as British people, wouldn't we?
We would do if it was an ally. And the thing to remember here is this is essentially the UK government-funded broadcaster doctoring a documentary. This isn't anything other than a documentary. Panorama, arguably one of the most important factual programmes of the BBC era since 1926, and we would frown very much upon it, I'm sure. Look, I don't think that this is too much of a surprise. The timing's a surprise. I also don't think that we're going to get a great deal of change either, because what I believe is both roles became untenable, but there will be plenty of people, including the people that have had to leave, that won't believe that it became untenable because they were wrong. They will believe that the pressure was put on by the wrong people. So I think that we still have I'm very safe in saying that they are very likely to believe that they didn't do anything wrong. Donald Trump's a bad person. They made a mistake, but he's a bad person anyway, and all they've managed to do is just make a bit of a blip. So I don't think we're going to see a huge amount of change. I don't think there'll be people calling, like Nigel Farage, calling for a big change at the top of the BBC. I don't think we're going to see that, Alex.
It'll be very interesting, though, won't it? It'll be very, very interesting. Linda, I mean, there will be people now saying this is foreign interference, that Donald Trump has interfered with British press. There is already people tweeting about it online, actually, going, how have we allowed the President of the United States to dictate what's going on at the BBC? However, is it not important to remind them that Donald Trump wouldn't be involved in this story had the BBC not made this mistake in the first place?
Well, they made the mistake about him, but let's face it, this is part of a long catalogue of things that have gone wrong. And this is one component of a situation that has been allowed to drag on and drag on and drag on. It's not just the news department, it's right across the BBC.
Yes.
But in the news department, it's Hamas, it's this one, it's BBC Arabic, it's BBC Verify. I mean, there's an awful lot there that allows you to see that we, this week, reached a tipping point. In fact, we reached the tipping point later than we should have done. This should have been dealt with before.
Sorry, Linda, I didn't mean to cut across you there, particularly as your voice is of greater value than mine on this. I do believe so, by the way. I'm not just blowing smoke. But I think that's the point. I think the point I was trying to make was that they won't see this as a huge... They won't see this as they were wrong. They'll see this as the wrong people have got upset.
Absolutely.
And the problem that they don't seem to see is that they don't need to say anything to prove their argument. If Donald Trump is this evil man, as they want us all to believe, all they've got to do is let Donald Trump talk. They don't doctor and splice document, speeches in order to try and prove their point. So what they've done now is there will be people in the camp who don't like him, who still don't like him. There'll be people in the camp who did like him and they still like him. But there'll be people in the middle there that'll be thinking, I don't trust the BBC any longer. I have the BBC have got no credibility. And if they've lied about this, what else have they lied about?
Bill, I take issue with there's a lot of people who are very critical of Donald Trump. And we had Peter Tatchell on here earlier on, and he was saying there was no, in some ways, no condemnation, no calls for peace from Trump on the day. And this is the problem, isn't it? Because the media have led many, many people to believe that Donald Trump, in my opinion, was inciting violence. And when you actually look at what he said, and particularly that doctored clip, which is a really important part of this, because many of those clips go viral, you actually realise he wasn't inciting violence. He did call for peace very, very quickly. Then he went as far to put a video out to his supporters. That's far more than I see most politicians do when there was the Black Lives Matter riots. There were politicians openly saying, this is good, people should rebel. There's a bias on the left, isn't there?
No, I don't think there is. I mean, look, Trump was lying about the election being stolen. He did urge that mob to fight. He did urge them to walk to Capitol Hill, and as a result of that, the mob descended on Capitol Hill and 5 people were murdered.
But there were people already on Capitol Hill before Trump had even started his speech.
Yeah.
The same people that then started that violence weren't Trump's people.
But people went from that demonstration and 5 people were killed, and I think that's very serious. So I don't genuinely believe that the Panorama documentary is the biggest cause for concern. There are other issues that have come out within the dossier, particularly the BBC Arabic channel, where they've clearly taken very different editorial judgments to the main BBC website, and I think they need to explain why that has happened. I think some of the treatment of transgender issues shows some bias, and the BBC, in my view, is rightly held to higher standards than other broadcasters, and there needs to be an institutional response. And I do think the Culture Secretary got it right this morning, that too often it's individual journalistic judgments without the context of editorial guidelines of how you handle issues.
But where she was totally wrong is to say, Yeah, I've watched bits of it, but not all of it. I haven't watched the whole thing. I mean, she is the culture secretary. It is like a cardiac surgeon saying, well, I didn't touch the heart. You know, at the end of the day...
You know, you should be on top of... Not only does the culture secretary have, you know, special powers with the BBC, more so than any other part of this country.
I just want to say one thing as well. I don't think it's a question of, is it left-wing, is it right-wing? Maybe it's partly that. But it's a kind of group thing. It's that the BBC has a certain type of person that wants a certain type of news. I mean, I know that. I've got plenty of friends who work there. I've known people who have worked there, close friends, since the start of my career, and it appeals to a certain type of person.
Well, 99% of the BBC's news coverage does not receive accusations of bias. Where there are...
Because the only people verifying it are the BBC, Bill.
No. I think most...
And they've got a problem lately anyway.
Otherwise, there'd be stories every day of the week. But where the BBC gets it wrong, and within this dossier there is evidence of it getting it wrong, then there needs to be action. And my biggest criticism, and why I think Davey was right to resign, is the BBC has had this dossier for 6 months. It's not at all clear what it's done, what investigations have taken place, and what responses come forward.
Can I just say, the BBC have got this advertisement out with, where it's basically at the moment going, trust is earned, and they talk...
the promo.
I'm going to get it for you. We'll play it very shortly, because it basically goes through BBC Verify, which... I think it's a complete joke, Paul. BBC Verify has actually incapable of verifying itself, and I was saying this earlier. And I think Kemi Badenoch's made a really good point. She says...
It had to happen once.
Well, you may say that, Bill.
I'm doing your job again, Paul.
By the way, Linda and Bill have already been funnier than me.
Well, take the comedian out your title next time, Paul.
I'll see you Tuesday.
Kemi Badenoch has said, on basic matters of biology, the corporation can no longer allow its output to be shaped by a cabal of ideological activists. That's what's led to this racism report that they put out saying car insurance companies are racist. They had to pull. It's what's led, in my opinion, to Martine Croxall, who just slightly widened her eyes when she was fixing her autokey from pregnant people to women. This is the kind of stuff I think Kemi Badenoch is right about when she says a cabal of ideological activists.
Yeah, BBC Verifies, for me, is incredibly sinister, and I'm not being cynical about this. This is the view of Paul Cox and not GB News. But I think it was put together not to verify what the BBC were doing, but to check for wrongthink. There is nothing, you know. If you think of every single scandal that we've talked about, even Bill's talked about, there was every opportunity for BBC Verify to be on the front foot, reporting on that before anybody else did. There'd be no need for anybody else if BBC Verify were doing their job. They're not there to do the job they're telling us that they're doing. They're there to verify their own right think. I don't think the BBC is being held to a higher standard. I just think what we're trying to do is set a standard for the BBC to work to. The BBC is not being held to a higher standard. If this happened at ITV, if this happened at GB News, we would all... This would be equally big story. If we started splicing, Keir Starmer's speeches, they'd be all held to pay.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I've got some funny things I want to show you very short, so stay tuned, because BBC Verify ad, I'm going to bring that to you, but I also made my own version of it yesterday. So if you didn't see the show yesterday, I'll play that for you. But coming up...
I have complete confidence that both Samir Shah, the chair of the BBC, and Tim Davie are treating this with the seriousness that this demands.
Every time a Labour Minister or Secretary says that they've got full confidence, somebody resigns, because less than 12 hours later, BBC Director Tim Davie is out, and the BBC is further embroiled in another crisis. This is Alex Armstrong tonight. Loads of fun stuff to show you. Stay with us.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nigel Farage, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
12,000 men die a year from prostate cancer. I think that's the fact that a lot of people don't realise in the first place, which is scary. But the potential life-saving trial that's been found will allow... Well, there's a study that shows 162,000 men. That could be reduced by 13%. So I think the one thing that's really interesting with prostate cancer is how hard it is actually to get the test. And I think that's one thing. A lot of people are scared to take it, I find. And it's kind of these stats that it's information getting out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you are entitled to it over 50.
You're entitled
but it's
to
a battle.
It's a postcode lottery. You know, I'd know men who said I wanted to get the test. I went to my GP. They said I couldn't have it. They had to really fight for it. And of course, like any cancer, catching it early is crucial. I had breast cancer 7 years ago. I was so lucky, caught at my very first mammogram, and I'm still here.
Yeah, I had to fight for it. I had one when I turned 50. And because I just said, I'm entitled to it, I want one. And I really, really had to push, and that's not because a lot of people won't do that.
I think it's the opportunity, as you're saying, like, if you have the opportunity to catch something early, like, people will take it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, sometimes people don't even know about these things, and I think it's about having the opportunity. It's kind of like, OK, reach out, allow people to make that decision themselves. Do they want to find out?
Yeah.
Because people will take it, like, 100%.
No, of course.
Make it easy, make it available.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition, and I'm delighted to welcome back to the show the former editor of the Sunday Express and friend of the programme, David Wooding. David, pleasure to have you on my show. Every time you're here, news is breaking somehow. I don't know how you do it, David. You're working your magic. What do you make of this?
The scandal.
Yes, we love a scandal, don't we? We love a scandal. It keeps the world turning. What do we make of this Tim Davie resigning? Of course, many people are pointing to Donald Trump going, do you think Donald Trump's had a hand in this? Do you think he's called up his friend, his friend Keir Starmer? We've got to we forget that these two are quite close, it seems. Do you think maybe Donald Trump's had a few words with the Prime Minister?
I think the big trigger for it, to be honest, Alex, is the fact that Samir Shah, the chairman of the BBC, is to give his response tomorrow to the Commons Select Committee, and he needs something up his sleeve to give to the MPs who will be baying for some kind of strong response. And that response has happened tonight, in my view, in losing two top figures. That's the way I see it, to be honest.
Yeah, and we talk about radical overhauls. Nigel Farage has come out. We've got Ed Davey coming out here. And interesting, because I keep going back to this Ed Davey quote. Of course, Ed Davey's leader of the Liberal Democrat Party in the United Kingdom, the third largest party by seat count now. So I think we should take the man a bit more seriously, even if he doesn't always take himself seriously. Sir Ed Davey said, the resignations of Tim Davie and Deborah Turnus must be an opportunity for the BBC to turn a new leaf, rebuild trust, and not give in to the likes of Nigel Farage, who want to destroy it. What do you make of those words, David?
Well, this is what's completely wrong with the BBC's response to this scandal, Alex, in that they've defended it. Even respectable journalists like John Simpson and Nick Robinson on the Today programme saying, people are out to destroy the BBC. No, we're not. I mean, I have to say, declare an interest here. I'm a lover of the BBC. I think the BBC does some great public service broadcasting. And if only it would focus on that instead of other things, then perhaps it might be in a better position. But their only response to this scandal was to say people are out to get us. No, we're not. We just want the BBC to be fair. And this tampering with the video was known about by Tim Davie 6 months ago. And what did he do? Nothing. If he'd have acted and sacked the head of Panorama and a few other people who knew what they were doing when they did this, then we might not be in this situation. And also, we're hearing tonight, mistakes have been made. These are not mistakes, Alex. These are deliberate distortion of the news. And to say it's a mistake is just to brush it away. And to say also it's people out to get them. No, look, if people are out to get them, then why on earth are they doctoring the news and giving them a hammer with which to beat them? You know, now Donald Trump and all other enemies of the BBC, whenever they're criticised, can just say, well, it's the BBC, it's fake news, we know what their game is. So they played right into the hands of their enemies. They should be doing the job properly instead of making excuses about it.
Yeah, on the front page of the Telegraph today, David, Anita Singh's given her opinion on this, and I think it's quite interesting. She says the criticism in his mind, talking about the BBC, criticism toward the BBC, in his mind was unwarranted and politically motivated. He did not seem to grasp that we scrutinise the BBC because it's a public service broadcaster funded by the licence fee payer. Is this the problem? Because the licence fee, we cannot... I don't think you can separate the licence fee from the operations of the BBC. They have basically an unlimited bucket of money where millions of us are forced to pay for this service. That generates them all the money they need. And then therefore, even if they do something wrong and people want to stop watching and show their disdain, they can't really do it, can they?
No, that's why the BBC must be impartial. And it's important to stress this, Alex, and you're right to raise that point to your viewers and listeners, that if it was GB News or a copy of a newspaper like the Sunday Express, the Sun or the Times, then people have a choice. They don't have to buy it if they don't want to. If they pay for it, then they've got to say. If they don't want to buy it, don't pay any money. But with the BBC, you have no choice. I mean, TV stations like GB News and ITV are funded by advertising and other income. But the BBC, it's a compulsory tax. We all pay £174.50 a year to fund the BBC. So we expect them to be unbiased and neutral.
Certainly agree with you, David. Thank you so much for coming on the show this evening. Former editor of the Sunday Express and total legend, David Wooding. Thank you so much for coming on the show as ever, David. I'd like to bring in my fantastic panel again to talk about this story. And of course, we will get on to other headlines tonight as well, by the way. But I just want to carry on this just for a little while longer. The front page of the Telegraph again. I will go back to this Anita Singh opinion piece because I think it does actually speak to the problem, and it's the same.
This is the central problem.
Yes, it is. It's this feeling, perhaps, and I think the British people might sense it, that the BBC thought it could constantly sort of ignore it and did feel like these attacks were political, but actually they forget that politics is based off of people's opinions on things, and that is why this has become a battleground at the BBC. It's not because we all just want to have a bash at the BBC, it's because they're doing things that need scrutinising and they don't like it.
Yeah, and I think it's just become a self-reinforcing bubble, and they just don't listen to people outside. And the fact of the matter is that members of my own family and friends, perfectly sensible, sane, intelligent people, just now regard the BBC as, just not something that resonates with them, that it's just a bit too biased. They just can't get a straightforward view of the world. I'm not saying that they don't ever watch the BBC, but they scrutinise the BBC in the way they never would have done when they trusted it 100%. They wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And maybe lots of BBC programming is still watched by Middle England, and it generates and creates lots of very interesting programming still, but BBC News in particular, deserves all the criticism it gets. There are people I know that are totally disengaged with politics. They don't care for politics. The closest they get to politics is, how often the council collects their recycling bin. Unlike us, we live and breathe politics. However, they even get a sense that what they're being told by the BBC isn't necessarily true. And I'm not saying that they've all tuned into GB News or anything else. They just instinctively know that they can see the world world around them, and it doesn't align with what they're seeing.
Bill, I think, you know, we were talking about Kemi Badenoch's comments earlier on. I think she has sort of hit the nail on the head there. She thought BBC Arabic must be brought under urgent control. The BBC's US and Middle East coverage needs a full overhaul. Basic matters of biology, the corporation can no longer have its output shaped by a cabal of ideological activists. I remember watching a bit of BBC News, and they put a trans man as a single mother on one of their segments talking about the struggle for single women. And I was just completely baffled when I was watching it. And I was like, I cannot believe this is real, you know? Do you know what I mean? I said, Kemi Badenoch's got a point, hasn't she?
Well, I mean, particularly with her criticism of the BBC Arabic channel, where I think there are serious and searching questions the BBC needs to answer. But I don't agree that there's this massive loss of confidence in the BBC. The polling evidence just doesn't back that up. I mean, I quoted it earlier, 64% value the BBC as a public service broadcaster. You don't get to 64% if there's a massive loss of confidence.
Can I just say, just on that point, because I think it's really important, I do think people find value in the entertainment side of the BBC. I do think they find value in watching EastEnders, watching...
And the great occasions of state, the coronation, the funerals.
But I think the news side of things is where they are being let down, because that's where they get political.
Yeah, but it's the news coverage, which by and large the polling evidence does back up, that the people have confidence in. However, in this crisis, and I think it is a crisis, there are serious and searching questions that the BBC needs to respond to. And I'm not in favour, and we debated it earlier, I'm not in favour of abolishing the licence fee because it gives the BBC independence, but I would be in favour of the BBC coming under the remit of Ofcom. It's a historical anachronism as to why the BBC is self-governing, and I think Ofcom having oversight over its independence and impartiality would be a good thing.
I just don't think the licence fee giving the BBC independence is a strong enough argument for funding, you know, a channel when actually originally it was designed to as a licence for the TV equipment.
Well,
you
this is it.
Carry on
it's
hiking
dated.
up the fee year after year.
And I can't see my little brothers who watch YouTube for a living wanting to pay a licence fee, quite frankly. So we'll see, won't we? Listen, I've got a great skit I want to show you. BBC Verify skit. It's really, I think it's quite funny. I think it's a great piece of work that me and my producer have done on this. Anyway, also coming up, Ben Leo is going to join us live from Washington, D.C. There's been an update, apparently, from the US, and the White House, of course, has thrown its support behind GB News. Wow, what a moment there. Let's find out if there's an update after the break, shall we?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Not much sunshine across the central and eastern Mediterranean. Heavy showers and thunderstorms expected here. But elsewhere across northern Europe, mostly dry, settled with some sunshine. Though we are expecting some showers on Monday across parts of Portugal, also northern areas of France. These could turn heavy at times. And as we drift away eastwards across the Mediterranean, turning more and more unsettled, some heavy showers and thunderstorms here. Into next week, we should see more sunshine, and alongside the sun, there should be some warm temperatures too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to our latest GB News weather forecast. Low pressure dominating our weather pattern for the next few days, bringing bands of rain across the country, some showers, but it will be mild still. Winds coming in from the southwest, but over the next 24 hours we can see more organised areas of rain pushing north and eastwards, keeping it unsettled. And that will continue this evening time. Bands of rain across England and Wales pushing north-eastwards. Another band of rain across southern and eastern Scotland, as well as parts of Northern Ireland as well as we head overnight. In between, there'll be some clearer spells, particularly across central areas and perhaps sort of the northwest of Scotland, keeping generally dry. But a mild night for most. Temperatures in double figures. A little bit colder across north-east Scotland, and here we'll have some rain initially first thing, but elsewhere a mixture of sunny spells and showers to start Monday morning. Some of these showers from the word go heavy across southern England, pushing north and eastwards through the day. Some sunny spells into Wales, the Midlands, northern England with showers. Rather cloudy for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, with outbreaks of rain which could be heavy at times, and rather chilly here, temperatures still in single figures. Through the day, what we'll see is the bands of showers and rain continue to push north and eastwards across much of the country. Some of this may merge into some longer spells of rain and give some heavy downpours across central southern England, pushing into northeast England later on in the day. Elsewhere, mixture of sunny spells, further rain across northern Scotland, but this clearing later on. Chilly here, temperatures 9 or 10 Celsius, but for most, again, mild, 13, 14, maybe locally 15 Celsius. In the best of any sunnier breaks. And then it's wet and windy again on Tuesday as further weather systems move in. Rain pushes north and eastwards, accompanied by some strong winds. And the rain could be heavy at times too, perhaps sort of central and northern parts of Scotland holding on to the driest weather for longest. And it remains unsettled into much of next week as well, with further rain at times, but remaining mild in the south.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I've got a little bit of a treat lined up for you, all right? Joining me now ahead of The Late Show live at midnight is GB News' very own Ben Leo. Ben, first of all, what's coming up on your show tonight? And then we've got a little surprise, haven't we?
I'm glad you think my presence is a treat, Alex. Thank you. That's very generous. Coming up tonight on The Late Show Live, apart from my dodgy voice, which is on the precipice of collapsing completely, is an exclusive look at how this week in Washington, D.C. has gone down. From the moment last week when the Daily Telegraph first presented that story about the Panorama fake news speech, all the way through the week until that bombshell statement from the White House on Friday from the BBC, towards the BBC, calling them fake news. We have some exclusive detail on what went on. There were reports that maybe some BBC reporters were hauled into the White House for a telling off on Friday, and we have an exclusive from our very own Bev Turner, who's got a statement from Caroline Levitt, the White House press secretary, exclusive for GB News viewers, so we'll be sharing that with you. You don't want to go to bed. I know that we've had a lot of coverage today on the BBC, Tim Davie, the resignation of Deborah Turness as well, but we have more to tell you at midnight. Elsewhere, we've got a great human interest story with a woman whose husband self-deported. He took himself back to Kenya here in the United States because he was worried that ICE, the immigration authorities here, were going to haul him into a prison van and kick him out. It's a touching story, but a nice and interesting debate over whether President Trump's efforts to tackle illegal migration are working, of course. They've stamped out illegal migration, but whether they are humane. So we'll present that to you a bit later on.
Well, I'll be looking forward to that, Ben. But, you know, before you go, Bill was having a little bit of a pop at you earlier on, and I thought we wanted to give you the opportunity for you and Bill to have it out live on air. Right, so ding ding, it's round one. Go on, we'll get you both on screen in a second. Ben, I mean, what did you have to say to what Bill was saying earlier on tonight?
So I caught the end of it. I think Bill was saying, look, you've been on my show many times before, and indeed you have, and you respect me, and the respect, you know, it's equal. I respect you, Bill, of course. But I heard you saying, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that, you know, I'm not impartial, and I guess other presenters are accused of not being impartial on GB News as well. The thing is, Bill, I don't ever pretend to be impartial. I don't sit here and pretend to be an unbiased journalist who wants to present the news. And also, the other thing is, GB News is a private entity. We are not forcing the great British public to cough over £3.5 billion a year in licence fees to fund our content. We have to put our balls on the line and say, hello, general public, hello, free capitalist market, this is our product. Do you want to buy it? Are you interested in contributing to what we're doing here? So it's a completely different entity. And like I said, I never, ever shy away from giving my opinion. And the difference between us and the BBC is the BBC, the holier-than-thou BBC, trot along as some kind of impartial broadcaster, which is absolute nonsense. Time after time after time, we've seen their absolute junk journalism proved bias, proved false, proved fake news, and the great British public are being forced to pay for it. So, and just one last point, Bill. GB News, more than any other broadcaster in the United Kingdom, we have many, many people wanting to shut us down. A, because we are presenting different opinions and different thoughts, and for once, finally, in the history of this country, of recent decades anyway, giving an alternative view on what's going on. But we are more than any other broadcaster forced to put people like you, who are of different persuasions, maybe the left side of the argument, to present different opinions. Every single segment we do on this channel, we have to do that according to Ofcom law, according to our licence. So much so that some of our viewers get fed up with it. They're saying, why have you got Bill Rammell on? Why have you got Matthew Stadler on? He's annoying. We don't want to hear his views. I want to hear your views because I appreciate a so-called broad church of opinions. But the BBC don't do that. And one last note, prime example, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago when Newsnight did a segment on shutting down GB News. They had 3 people sat there in a row nodding like Churchill the insurance dog, saying, yes, GB News needed to be shut down. Absolutely no differing opinion or train of thought at all. So I just wanted to present that to you, Bill. I don't pretend to be impartial, but what I do have is somebody every time giving an alternative view and debating the argument with me.
Bill.
OK, I wouldn't appear as often as I do on GB News if I didn't have respect and value what it does. But it is a biased news channel. You talk, Ben, about people like me, you know, providing balance. Well, we don't. It's normally 3 against 1, with the presenter espousing a political view as well. And I think there could be a greater degree of balance. But I accept that, you know, GB News is different to the BBC. The point I was making is I do not want the whole of our broadcast news media environment to be dominated by channels exclusively who give a political viewpoint as though there are no verifiable facts and there's no evidence. And that, in my view, is what the BBC should be providing. And I think historically it has done that. It has provided balance, it has provided impartiality, and it has provided a reference for the facts. I think the dossier that has come out, and which has been with the BBC, and that's the inexcusable part of this, for at least 6 months, demonstrates that in some areas the BBC is falling short. And that's what should have been tackled, and that's what the BBC needs to respond to. And this has been Bill and Ben, the flower pot.
I'd be keen on your thoughts. I'd be keen to get your thoughts, Bill, on why you think GB News is now, for the 4th month running, the highest rated news channel in the UK, beating Sky News hands down, beating the BBC News channel hands down. And GB News, by the way, was founded basically because we, the founders, established that the BBC wasn't doing their job. So why do you think, just out of interest, this is not a gotcha question, just curious to hear your thoughts, why do you think GB News is now growing exponentially and blowing up?
I think in part because it does provide very in-your-face, full-throated exposure to the cut and thrust of political dialogue and political debate. And there is clearly an appetite amongst the public for that. And you know, the GB News has done very well in terms of the ratings for the last 4 months. There's a bit of a way to go to demonstrate whether that is sustainable.
Well, I'm going to have to leave it there, gentlemen. Ben, I can't wait to see your show tonight. Thanks for having a good-hearted debate, both of you. It was a lot more sensible and calm than I thought it would be. Ben, we'll see you at midnight. Listen, before we go to our break, I did have a little video I wanted to show you. Can we just play BBC Verify's advertisement to the public?
Hi, Merlin. What's the most surprising thing you've had to do to combat disinformation?
I had to call up sheriffs in the US to ask them whether they'd had any reports of people eating cats and dogs.
Oh, I would say maybe that one time when I had to call out of the blue a health expert in the US to tell them that their face was being used as part of a propaganda campaign in East Africa.
Well, this time last year, we looked into a story where people were throwing cartons of milk down the toilet because they thought it was part of a depopulation plot backed by Bill Gates.
Well, trust is earned, isn't it, BBC? Well, listen, I had a little bit of fun the other day. Take a look at this.
Alex, what's the most surprising thing you've done to combat disinformation?
Ah, yes, disinformation, my expertise. Well, I had to contact BBC Verify because they said that an Israeli airstrike destroyed a hospital in Gaza. Whoopsie. Actually, it was a Palestinian rocket, and BBC Verify were peddling Hamas disinformation.
So I had so much fun doing that. Thank you to my producer Mel, who probably put that together. Paul, this is the kind of ridiculousness, though, isn't it? The reason why it was so easy to make satire of, because it was just, it's so ridiculous that they're saying the trusted news, but actually they do put out disinformation themselves.
Yeah, what amazes me about that is they went to themselves to ask who's most trusted. So they went to the BBC Verify staff to say, you know, to prove to us that they're verifying themselves. That's the whole point of Verify. It verifies itself. None of us really believe in it. What we've seen this week is all you need to know as an example of why BBC Verify has failed.
Yeah, Linda?
Actually, I mean, I've got a friend who occupied a very, very senior role as a correspondent, and he said to me when BBC Verify came out, we're journalists. Why do we need to be verified? Because we are supposed to verify the stories when we do news gathering, when we report.
Good journalism did do that.
Bill?
Yeah, good journalism did.
It's not perfect, but I think actually having an institution that verifies whether, in fact, stories that are being put out are factual, are based in evidence, is a good thing.
But this is a journalist inside the BBC, a senior correspondent who told me he couldn't see the point. You're trained to be a journalist, you verify your facts.
This is it, right? And I think the problem is it becomes very Orwellian, doesn't it? Because then when they do get something wrong, then you either have you just taken it on face value as they told you they are the trusted verification service. There you go. Anyway, coming up, the Daily Mail has a powerful interview with a D-Day hero. We'll be talking about that very shortly. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday Five.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
Not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring you some more stories in tomorrow's papers, shall we? And the Daily Mail has a powerful interview with that now famous D-Day hero, Alec Penstone, who said the sacrifice of the people who died during World War II wasn't worth what the country has become and the UK has gone to rack and ruin. He claims there are too many people with their fingers in the till, and in this world today, it is every man for himself. Paul, funnily enough, when I saw this interview, I mean, first of all, I was kind of outraged about how the interview was conducted, although I do think Kate Garraway did a good job at least trying to show some human empathy to his feelings on this. But I spoke to a veteran here at GB News just last year who said the same thing. Are we going backwards? Is he right?
Yes, we are going. Well, we're going into territory unknown, actually. I run a comedy club, and we actually run out of a British Legion, and we were in one last night, and in Wimborne Minster, actually, which is in Dorset, and this is a proud town of military people. And what I saw last night, and what I've seen in recent times, is there is a real pride from a certain cohort within our society that has been entirely lost amongst another cohort in our society. People like Alec are being forgotten. People wear the poppy now as almost like a costume, an item from a costume. I would like to know why people are wearing. Do you know why? This is a rhetorical question. Do you know why you're wearing the poppy? Because what I'm seeing is people like Alec becoming. This is becoming political when it shouldn't do. Kate Garraway did show some sympathy. However, one thing I will say is she said, "I'm sorry you feel that way."
Yes, that's correct.
And I found that very frustrating.
Yes,
because she shouldn't be sorry he feels that way.
Yeah.
She should be sorry that the country has led him to feel that way.
Should we just play that clip quickly, and then we'll get some reaction from Linda and Bill as well?
What does Remembrance Sunday mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye those rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking seeing veterans feel that way. Linda, what did you think of it all?
I think she lacked empathy, really, in that, but she kind of did her best to get round her co-presenters.
I don't think she was expecting to hear that response from him. Clearly wasn't expecting it. So I don't think she knew what to say.
Yeah, and that mealy-mouthed, "I'm sorry you feel that way," is a classic. It's not worth apologising if you...
That isn't an apology.
It's not an apology.
That's saying to the audience...
Yeah, I'm right, really.
Yeah, the idea that this guy is in some way bigoted, he actually went to fight for this country. He went to fight on a principle as well, which is much forgotten. Much forgotten. And not only forgotten, seemed to be in some way bigoted now.
It's minimising his opinion. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Bill?
No, look, I've got the most enormous respect for that individual. I was at my remembrance ceremony in Harlow today, and it's really, really important that we remember the sacrifice that so many, particularly men, but women as well, made in the wars. But that doesn't mean you automatically have to accept the views of a veteran in terms of where the country is going. And I think it's...
Bill, he's absolutely right.
Well, no,
I'm really sorry.
I don't think he's right.
He is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us here are more qualified than him to tell that story. And unfortunately...
Well, we're all individuals, and we all have...
No, I don't think so. I agree we're all individuals.
I think we're all entitled to have an opinion about it. I would say I would listen to a 100-year-old veteran. And again, it's not an isolated case, because I have also spoken to a veteran. He said exactly the same thing to me in this studio. Anyway, look, GB News have contacted both ITV and Adil Ray's representatives and are waiting a response. OK, well, listen, thank you very much for joining me this evening, everybody. We've had massive stories tonight, haven't we? We've had massive stories. And, of course, coming up next is going to be The Late Show Live, hosted by the one and only Ben Leo. I will see you all next Friday and then Saturday and Sunday. Thank you, Linda Jubilee, Bill Rammell, Paul Cox. We'll bring you some more of that breaking news, of course, in The Late Show Live. Tim Davie, the Director General, has resigned. This is a massive story. I'll be looking forward because Ben told me that in The Late Show Live they are going to reveal more of that Caroline Levitt massive expose that, of course, Donald Trump is very angry, isn't he? They'll bring you more on that in just a moment. See you soon.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GBNews goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome.